Siftpop podcast is recorded in front of a live internet audience.
Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, the show that was originally based off the hit children's book, The World's Angriest Podcast in the World, it's Siftpop.
Do you think that we're going to become angry old men in our later years?
I don't know, man. It's a creepy book, that's all I know. Welcome to Siftpop, streaming live on Mixlr every Friday afternoon or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks!
Patrons get those perks. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I'm Aaron Dicer from YourMovieFriend.com, and as always, I'm joined by Andrew Ormsby from Flick Freaks.
Ahoy!
Every week, we'll be joined by a pop culture guru to chat about movies, television, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds, except for sometimes we just do it just the two of us, which is fine.
A little intimate now. You know, we get to talk, just you and me.
Just the two of us.
We can make it if we try, Aaron.
We can make it if we try. Is that Will? That's Will Smith, right? I think that's Will Smith.
Is it?
I think he did a remake of like the original, just the two of us.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Our guru got sick today.
Ruh-roh.
Like, legitimately ill.
Yeah. Not like I got a tummy.
Right,
No, this is like, yeah.
Isn't that thing where, like, my kids will call in, sick from, to not go to school. Like, he had to go to the hospital and stuff.
This is one of those phone calls you get, hey, before I go on, I just want to let you know everything's fine, and you just got to brace yourself. As soon as you hear that, I assume, especially as a parent, whenever your kids call to say that, hey, before I say anything, I want you to know everything's fine.
Yes, you know you're in for something then. But it's important to do that.
That's the phone call we got.
It's important to do that. Actually, you may have gotten that phone call.
I got that phone call.
I was texting him about something or other, and he texted that he wasn't going to be able to go see the movie last night. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And I said, what's up? And he texted me a picture of him in his hospital gown with an IV hooked up to him.
He didn't look happy in that photo.
No.
He sent me that photo too.
I was like, dude.
Yeah.
Get some rest, man.
Yeah.
Some peaceful rest. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, man.
Yeah.
That's a callback to the pre-show.
I think that the guru, I don't know if we're going to say his name or not, but he would get that humor and he would think it's pretty funny.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good to know.
He's all about that.
Have you been sick yet this season? Because this is the season for it.
See, here's the thing with me. I never get serious sick. Never. But I get micro sick, like, food poisoning or just, a nightly stomach flu or something like that.
Yeah.
All the time. So for me, like, it's just like, oh, yeah, it's Wednesday. I guess I'm going to go get sick now. But I never, I got to go to the hospital. Like, years since then.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
I don't think I've been sick to where I have to go to the hospital. It had been 3 years since I've been sick at all.
Really?
And then just a month ago, I caught a bug that my kids had. It was basically a 1 day kind of put you down because of the cough kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the cough lingered for another week, maybe even after I felt better. So, but it wasn't too bad.
Well, I used to work in a hospital, so my immune system is like
solid rock.
Yeah. And I assume you, being a parent to
right?
all boys.
A parent of 4 boys.
Yeah, your immune system, I think you and I are on equal grounds.
That's right. Our white blood cells are amazing.
Yeah.
They do great work.
Our blood is actually just white. We turned into the androids from the Alien series, we just bleed white. That's us.
That's good. I'm glad you went that direction instead of like American History X or something like that,
No. No, gosh, no.
I didn't want it to become a race thing.
No.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure we clear that up.
Yeah, I'm backing up hard now.
We've got a big show, packed show today. The movies has kind of let us down this week, so we're going to talk more television.
Which did not let us down.
No, season 1 of Legion has finished up. Season 1/series of Big Little Lies wrapped up. Both 7 episodes, which, by the way...
8 for both.
8?
8.
No, 7.
I promise.
You promise.
Double promise.
I just looked this up.
Legion Season 1 has 8 episodes.
All right, do Big Little Lies now.
Big Little Lies. Does this mean if I'm right that I get to sit in your chair?
It won't be the first time that you've been right and I've been wrong.
Big Little Lies is 7 episodes.
There we go. See, we're both right.
Yeah, I'll stay over here. We're okay.
All right. 8 episodes of Big Little Lies. No, 7 episodes. It doesn't matter.
8 and 7.
Their first seasons wrapped up, and we're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk a little bit about the movie Going in Style, even though Andrew didn't get a chance to see it.
Nope.
And then we'll have some buried treasure at the end. We'll also have our feedback section, which has a new name, which I'll reveal once we get there.
Even I don't know.
Yeah, Andrew's waiting for that one as well. But first, we've got some Do We Care?
Every single week I scour the internet to find out what is going on, and I will decide if anything here is worth talking about. Not only do we have a Do We Care segment here, but we are also starting off with some We Care Deeply as the world mourns the passing of the truly legendary Don Rickles, who passed away at the age of 90.
Yeah.
I think we do have some younger listeners. I think a lot of them would recognize him as Mr. Potato Head
Absolutely.
from the Toy Story movies.
Sure.
But I never watched all of the series that I'm about to talk about, but I did watch CPO Sharky. Did you ever watch that one?
No, not at all.
Chief Petty Officer Sharky. He's just an insult comic.
Yeah.
Famously,
the best insult comic of all time.
Famously, he was the only person that could make fun of Sinatra to his face and get away with it, apparently.
Yeah, Sinatra was a little thin-skinned, the rumor is. Like, he wanted to always be seen as, above that kind of stuff. And so Rickles was the only one who was able to kind of break through that barrier somehow.
He was, the greatest of all time. So,
yeah, Toy Story is obviously my big, kind of axis of where I've encountered him. But just in culture, you just know him. And it's been amazing on Twitter and different places to see people honor him in different ways.
They obviously haven't started production yet on Toy Story 4, but so they'll have to find a replacement for him, which is sad.
And Jim Varney, passing away a few years ago.
He only did the first one, right? Jim Varney?
I think he only did the first one. I think you're right about that. I'd have to check to make sure, but yeah.
I remember when Jim Varney was my Don Rickles.
Yeah?
So when I was growing up, Jim Varney was right there next to like any religious figure for me.
Know what I mean, Ver?
Yeah, know what I mean?
Know what I mean.
So now we're going to move on to Do We Care. Since we had one We Care Deeply, we only have 2 Do We Cares.
Sure.
So in weird production news, Christian Bale, Steve Carell, and Amy Adams will be in Adam McKay's next biopic.
Okay.
No, nothing interesting there, except when you find out that it's a biopic of Dick Cheney. And Christian Bale's going to be playing Dick Cheney. Steve Carell's going to be Donald Rumsfeld, and Amy Adams is going to be Lynn Cheney.
Wow.
Why do you have all of these beautiful people playing like the Cheneys and the Rumsfelds?
Well, that's nothing new. I mean, a lot of actors and actresses are considered beautiful people, and they end up, through prosthetics and makeup or whatever, playing people we wouldn't consider necessarily beautiful people, but
do you see Batman and Cheney being the same person, though?
I don't know, but did you see, who was it? Leonardo DiCaprio playing Howard Hughes, or,
Man, he knocked that out of the park.
You know what I'm saying?
I
mean, you can almost do anything with a good performance and good makeup, so...
Okay.
You just never know.
Interesting, though, isn't it?
What's interesting to me is this continued path we're going on where we're doing, today's biopics. We've already mined everything from 40 years ago and 30 years ago and 20 years. All we got left is today. So,
Didn't the movie W, the George Bush movie, come out while he was still in office?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's kind of amazing in that way. And yeah, the World Trade Center stuff happened pretty quickly, United 93. So I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I think it's really interesting and introspective of us to kind of look at stuff that's even just recent that's happened.
I think with the modern person in the world today, it's easier for them to consume entertainment, even though, it's dramatized.
Yeah.
They can they see that as a way of getting their news now.
That's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
I don't like that.
I'm just saying that's what's happening.
Yeah, you have to see it as entertainment.
Yeah. So Adam McKay, famously, he was a comedic director, but then he did The Big Short 2 years ago. Or is it last year?
No, it's 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah. So now this is going to be his next biopic. He knocked it out of the park whenever he did that, and he also did Hardball, I think.
Yeah, Big Short
was... it was written by the same guy.
Yeah, Big Short was really good. I enjoyed that.
The final Do We Care. This one's so fun. Things are not looking good for Shane Black's upcoming film, The Predator. Initially, Arnold Schwarzenegger was written in the script to reprise his role as Dutch, but after reading the script, Arnold said, "They asked me, I said it, I didn't like it, I won't do that."
Whoa! What happened in that script?
If Arnold thinks the script is bad, you know they're in troubled waters. We're talking about a man who did not say no to Last Action Hero, Hercules in New York, and Junior.
Kindergarten Cop.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with Kindergarten Cop. It's not a tumor.
It's not a good script.
Not a good script. But,
oh, man.
Yeah, I looked at the cat because I knew that the movie was happening. I knew they were making a new Predator movie. So I looked at the cast. It's a crazy, weird cast.
Is
you have
it?
Olivia Munn, Keegan-Michael Key.
Yeah. I like these people.
The new kid from Room is in the movie. And then you have, I don't know his name off the top of my head, but he's in This Is Us. He's the African-American son.
Oh, yeah. He was also just in People vs. OJ. He played Johnny Cochran.
He wasn't Johnny Cochran. He was...
Durden.
Yeah, he was Durden,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really weird cast, and then Shane Black is directing it, so...
That could be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, although I've never seen the original Predator.
Which is such a shame. Everybody has movies. Is that one that you're like kind of ashamed to say you haven't seen, or just is Predator? I get it. He's an alien.
Yeah, I like it. It strikes me as one of those old, 80s action movies, rated R action movies that I don't need to get around to.
For me, Predator.
Is there something spectacular about it that I need to see?
Yeah, it's it is that 80s action movie, but at the same time, it still captures that intensity and like eeriness of Alien.
You think it captures what Alien captured? Do you think it's intense like that?
So there's horror elements to Predator, but if you've seen it enough, I just remember whenever, maybe it's just one of those things that you watch when you're a kid, kind of like Alien, where it sticks with you.
That's what it strikes me as.
And since I saw it as a kid, it's now forever in my mind and as this, amazing action movie.
It's like I don't feel like I need to catch up on like all the Friday the 13th movies that I missed when I was at that age. It has that kind of same like, yeah, I get it. It was big then and there's a nostalgia thing to it for a lot of people, but it doesn't strike me as like a movie that's going to make a best all-time list or something that...
That isn't my top 100 movies of all time.
Well, then maybe I should.
Yeah.
I should work my way through your top 100 of all time at least.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some movies in there that I guarantee you some people would question how it made it into my top 100.
But that's what makes it your list. That's why we love it.
That's very true.
That's what we love about
it's the top 100. I said it's my top 100.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Let's go wrap it up for Do We Care?
All right. Let's move on to Legion.
Just tell me what happened next.
Look.
I don't know. It's fuzzy.
You went off your medication.
Wake up.
Why?
We're just looking for the truth. Which you promised to tell.
I told you they took her.
Sydney Barrett, the girl who disappeared.
She didn't disappear. She took my place, and I took hers.
Legion comes to us from the X-Men universe about David Haller. He's a troubled young man diagnosed with schizophrenia as a child. He's been in and out of psychiatric hospitals for years, and now in his early 30s, finds himself institutionalized again. His daily routine, including therapy, taking medications, and silently listening to talkative friend Lenny, is upended when troubled new patient Sid arrives, and they are inexplicably drawn to each other. Legion on FX, starring Dan Stevens as the central character, Aubrey Plaza in there as well, Gene Smart, I think, several others. This is, again, based in the X-Men universe. It's finished up its first season. Now, we talked a little bit about Legion after the third episode.
Yeah.
So there are some of these thoughts that may be a little bit, we may return to them. But now that we're done with season one, I did want to revisit it and kind of see what you thought of the season in its entirety. What did you think?
Loved it.
Yeah?
Absolutely loved it.
I'm just going to go with liked it.
Just liked it? Not even really liked it?
I could go with really liked it.
Okay.
I'm just, I think, and let's start here because I think it can be the primary negative. I know we usually start with positives, but I think it's just too confusing. I really think, and I thought that was just going to be a first couple episodes thing, but it really, through the entire thing, does not do a lot to give you like a foundation of what you're watching, what's going on, what does it mean, all those kind of things. Now, I think that's intentional and like much respect for doing that.
Yeah.
But I was hoping I would get a real sense of this world and what was real and what wasn't.
I just want to know what the marketing meeting for this show was, where they said, or the pitch meeting, I guess I should say, where they were like, hey, we're going to make a television show in the X-Men universe. And then they were like, oh, that sounds amazing. But then they were like, yeah, we're going to make it in the same vein as Mr. Robot or Primer, where you're confused during the entire thing. And they're like, I don't know. Shouldn't we get, like Wolverine or, Cable or Gambit in the show? No. It's all about this one psychotic character, and you don't know if a single second of the show is real or not.
And I would say that's a positive for me. Like, I'm glad that somebody is taking risks like this.
It's a very big, but I think it's a risk that pays off in a big way for me.
I think so,
it's
too.
It's so fresh.
It is. It just feels like this is one show that doesn't feel like anything else on TV.
No.
Right? Am I wrong about that?
Besides Mr. Robot.
I don't even think it feels like Mr. Robot. I think even Mr. Robot, with its unreliable narrator, has a better sense of bringing, like a narrative structure to what it's doing. There is some narrative structure that you can kind of like grab onto, but for the most part, you're experiencing something.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I'll say this then, and I know we're not doing cons yet, but you started one, so I'm going to throw out one too.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll start with the cons. Let's start with the cons.
There is no to little progression in this show at all. Like, where you start off is where you end as far as what you understand in this first season.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because the subject matter is so dense and heavy that they felt maybe the first season is just introducing people to the world and to get them, mentally prepared, no pun intended, for what the show is going to, do and say moving forward. But for a lot of people who want a good story told, maybe they would have been too confused, because it's not a show you can watch in the background and understand. You got to watch every single episode once or twice to fully understand.
Yeah, it's not a show built for web browsing. Like, you can't. I have to like close my laptop, put it down, put my phone down somewhere, and focus.
I'm curious now that the first season is done.
Which I don't mind, by the way. I think it's great to have those kind of shows. I need some of the other kind of shows too.
Yeah,
but yeah,
you need the match games, to watch in the background. But do you think that now that the show is fully done, if you were to binge watch all of this, it would make a little bit more sense? Because
I feel like that.
Yeah.
You mean binge watch it as if it were the first time?
Yeah.
Or binge watch it knowing it's the second time through?
Do you think that if you would have seen all of these back to back instead of waiting weekly to see them, that you would have had a better understanding?
Maybe slightly, because there is something about being able just to get through. I think the confusion that you feel is amplified by the time that it takes to watch the next episode. So it kind of sits there and gets amplified, and then when the next one comes, and also you've forgotten some of the stuff. When you're confused, it's easy to forget things because you don't have something to attach them to. That's part of what a narrative structure does. It allows you to attach the scenes and the characters and those kind of things in a place, in a moment, so that they're more memorable. Yeah. When something like this doesn't have as much of a narrative structure and is more haphazard, it's harder to attach those things. So you forget a lot easier. Oh, who is this character? What were they doing? Because there's nothing to attach them to.
Yeah.
So, I think binging actually might help this out quite a bit.
Because I know there are a lot of people out there who were really hesitant about picking up a new show, especially one that we have told them is really confusing.
Yeah.
But now that it's all done, I think if you binge watch it, you might be able to understand a little bit more what's going on.
I land on the worth the confusion side of things. I really do.
Absolutely.
I think it's visually innovative, I should say. It's visually innovative enough that alone makes me glad I watched it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that I'm in it, because I love even down to the simple effects they use on the title. How the title has a different background floating behind it than the foreground. Like that kind of stuff. Just stuff like that where you're in one world but looking, through to another world through the title. It's because it's not just a cool effect. It also kind of means something in this world,
Yeah.
So, and I'll go here as we talk about what we love. Dan Stevens is incredible in this thing. Like the more this went on, especially those last 2 or 3 episodes, I am blown away by this man.
Honestly, I think every single performer in this is somewhere between amazing and brilliant. I think that across the board, everybody is crazy good. Somebody that I really like, and I don't know, like, if you picked up on loving this character as much as I did, but the Carries, the old man and the girl, and their the connection they have. You know, I don't want to say too much if you haven't seen the show, but
yeah, we're not going to spoil anything.
Are we doing a spoiler on either?
We can talk a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
I figured most of our spoiler talk would be on Big Little Lies. It seems like one that needs more of the spoilers to have some further discussion on it.
Okay.
But yeah, we can throw some Legion stuff in there too in our Sift spoil.
I think his name is Bill Irwin, who is one of the Carries. Man, I love that guy so much. He was so good. And then you have Jermaine Clement from the Flight of the Conchords in this as well. And I thought he was just going to be, you know, like just a funny character, you know, just, you know, like your one little escape to a realm of humor.
Yeah, like a sidekick, like he was comic relief.
He is a comic relief, but at the same time, he's really good, and his character is fascinating.
Yeah.
So there are so many different story arcs that this first season drops on you that they don't answer a single one of them, by the way. So there are so many different ways that the show can go.
I think there is one story arc that is answered.
Really?
I really do.
I'd be curious to find out which one you think is.
Yeah.
But I just really can't wait to see where the show goes from here.
Yeah, hold that question in your brain and ask me during spoilers, because I do think there is one storyline that does get answered, and if you can hang your hat narratively on anything, it's that one storyline. So,
do you think it's the main one?
I do.
Okay, this is the main one then.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think the main storyline does have some resolution to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anything else you wanted to bring up about Legion before we move on?
I can't recommend it enough, but you have to commit to it. Like, it's not a show you can watch in the background.
My one last thing, if I had one, would probably be Aubrey Plaza.
So good.
And good in a way that was really surprising to me.
I've never seen her like this before.
Yeah. I love it. I love it when an actor or actress blows my mind with their versatility, you know?
Whenever, I don't know if I said it in this show or not, maybe it was another podcast, but I called who I thought the villain was going to end up being. It made me feel good.
You got it right.
I got it right, yeah.
Well, speaking of getting it right, let's move on to Big Little Lies.
What do you look at in the ocean? What's out there?
It's full of life, dreams, mystery.
Monsters?
Who knows what lies out there beneath the surface?
Big Little Lies, HBO, Sunday nights. It brings us Reese Witherspoon.
You got an all-star. You got Laura Dern,
Nicole
Kidman,
Shailene
Woodley.
Yeah, what a cast.
Alexander Skarsgård. It's
based on the same title bestseller, Big Little Lies. It weaves a darkly comedic tale of murder and mischief in the tangled beachfront town of Monterey, California, told through the eyes of three mothers, Madeline, Celeste, and Jane. The series' narrative explores society's myths regarding perfection and its romanticization of marriage, sex, parenting, and friendship. What did you think of Big Little Lies Season 1?
Can't love it enough.
I'm loving it on this one.
Yeah.
This one blew my mind.
This is one of the best miniseries I've ever seen, and I might be bold enough to say it might be one of the best miniseries ever made.
Now, let's talk about this, because you use the term miniseries as opposed to TV show.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, a miniseries is a one and done. There's not multiple seasons to it. They just have...
But nobody's come out and said that they're not doing a season 2 of this.
They've said it's a miniseries. At the same time,
because I just heard the creator say that they left some clues that there might be further things to explore.
Maybe. I thought it was just a miniseries.
Yeah.
Because that's what everybody's been calling it.
I think it should be. Don't get me wrong. I think it's one and done.
Leave
is perfect.
Leave well enough alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. This show is going to win every single Golden Globe or Emmy that it's nominated for.
You would think so, man. Because here's the thing. It made a promise, right? Like it said, here are these incredible A-list actresses who are going to come together in this best-selling story on television. It made this promise that said this is going to be A-list, right?
Yeah.
And then it backed it up and then some. And that's incredible to me.
Yeah.
Because you'd think there'd be the high expectations alone. Because going into this, I'm like, come on.
It's a high bar, and then you pole vault over it. You know?
Yeah. So. So I think you could be right. I think there are a lot of awards in the future for
the
the
only
show.
problem is I don't know who's going to win because
Kidman.
I did write down if anybody's going to win, it might be Nicole Kidman.
It's Kidman
because what she's asked to do,
Yeah.
and the subject matter that they're trying to tackle with her character is so powerful, and it's her and Alexander Skarsgård. What they're asked to do is insane. Obviously, we're going to wait to spoilers before we talk about anything,
right?
Because this is a show I would hate if somebody spoiled for me.
So let's talk about non-spoily things. I'll start here with something I liked. The depth of the show was much deeper than I expected it to be. The way it touches on the subject matter that you're talking about, those kind of things, was so empathetic and beautiful and nuanced, and I just thought it was brilliant in the way that it handled its depth, like what it was about. Plus, it was about more than even just that topic. It was about women and friendships, and I think it captured for me the idea of being a woman and having, relationships and those kind of things better than I've seen any other pop culture thing do. Like, I felt I understood, and I've said this with race before too. There's some things that just capture the black experience in a way that allow me into that world, even as a white man, to feel like I can better understand and have empathy and be in somebody else's shoes. And when culture does that, I stand up and applaud, because the more we can live in each other's shoes and understand each other's experience, the more we can love each other and be empathetic with each other. And I think this show did that for me. Yeah,
absolutely. And this may surprise you, Aaron, but I'm not a mother. So I'm never fully going to understand the bond that a mother feels for her child.
Right.
But I think this show is as close as I'm ever going to get to understanding that, because these performances are so powerful, and I truly believe these actresses, whenever they say that they love these kids as if they were their own. I didn't see an actress and a child actor or actress.
Right, a mother and child.
I saw a mom and a kid.
Of course, the thing that it's getting the most, I think, praise for, rightly so, is the editing. The editing in this show is mind-blowingly brilliant. The way they use sound, like duck sound out, and they do like these weird flashbacks in this movie where the sound isn't there, and it almost felt more like a real flashback, like you would have one.
Yeah, that was one of the points I made. Like, all these flashbacks where there's no sound at all, makes it more powerful. Your mind fills in the blank, and your mind will fill in either the best or the worst, depending on the situation. And that's brilliant. That really is.
Was there anything you didn't like about Big Little Lies? All right, what are some of the negatives?
So during the show, there were several storylines that were brought to the forefront, but by the time the show ended, there was no closure to many of them.
Right, because they are red herrings.
Yeah,
because
that's exactly what I wrote down. I was like, maybe they're red herrings because of what... In the first episode, something is revealed, and we have to wait until the series is over to find out what the closure is on that.
Yes.
I didn't know if they were red herrings or if they were story arcs that we needed closure on. So if they are red herrings, then well done. But I also did want to find out what was going to happen with those.
Sure. That didn't bother me as much because I knew what the structure was. It is a mystery. This show, in addition to being a deep character study, is also a mystery. And because it's a mystery, I knew why they were building in these plot lines and these different character relationships and those kind of things. So I understood kind of why it was happening, and I didn't need necessarily resolution on those things. I think it gave resolution on some of those things.
Yeah.
It kind of wrapped a couple of those storylines up.
Yeah.
But not all of them, for sure.
No. Another thing that I love about the show, and I think that I had this show as a buried treasure a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
After the first episode, I think you did.
Okay, yeah. I said that one of the things I loved about the show, and I was very justified, as it turns out, by the end of the show, is that I loved how in the show they're interviewing other people in the town.
Yeah.
And that how unreliable that third-party narrative is. Man, they really cranked that up as the show went on, and it just got better.
I completely disagree.
You didn't like it?
That's my least favorite part of the show.
I love it because...
Were those interviews.
I love the interviews because it really gives you an in-depth look as to how dumb gossip is.
Yes, no, I agree with that, and I get the point of them. I think my point is they don't feel like they're in the same show. The tone of those moments always took me out of the show. It's this very deep, powerful, well-performed thing, and then all of a sudden, it turned into kind of like The Office, like a mockumentary in some ways, and it was like the tone shifted for me in a way that was distracting. And every time one happened, I was like, ugh.
Really?
I just want to see the story. Tell me the story.
I think you're supposed to go, ugh, because those people are dumb. They're really dumb.
I know, but not in that kind of way. In the kind of way as like, this isn't the show I'm enjoying. Please get back to the show I'm enjoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that, and again, I obviously loved it, so it wasn't like it, hurt it too bad for me. But that was my one negative.
That's the true definition of an unreliable narrator. They don't know. It's the confidence in their ignorance that I really find fascinating.
Yeah.
That's what I truly loved. Do you have one more thing about the show?
My one more thing is I figured out the central mystery about 4 episodes in, and I don't know that I care. Like, it because of the way the show, and I don't know that it was trying to hide it an extreme amount, but it seemed to me it was the only place the show really could go that would offer the closure. And I'm talking around it because I don't want to spoil anything, but
you could say that the show is trying to find out who a specific person is, and I had it narrowed down to about 4 people. 2 I was really like, it's possibly this person or it might be this person. Turned out I was right on one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm right with you. I didn't care because it was good.
Because it's so well done. Yeah. And to me, that's the key. The key thing that people don't realize, because we live in a pop culture world that is a lot about gimmicks and those kind of things. If you have great writing and great characters and a great, central story, just take your audience on a ride. And, if you do it well, they'll enjoy it. So
you don't have to Shyamalan people.
No.
So
totally agree. Although a good Shyamalaning is also fun.
A good Shyamalaning will make Aaron Dicer scream out in the middle of a theater, make everybody turn around and look at him.
We are going to talk about that every week on Siftpop. At some point, it's going to come up.
It's because I've never seen you do that before.
Overall, huge recommend.
Can't recommend it enough.
All right. We're not done yet.
No.
We're going to talk about a movie.
Woo!
Going in Style.
Seeing an overdrawn balance in your daily checking.
Yeah, my mortgage payment tripled.
I've disclosed the possibility of a rate hike during your refi. Do you remember that?
Everyone on the ground, now!
The 3 men walked off with $1.6 million.
They choreographed it like a dance.
A conga line right into prison.
They didn't get caught.
Going in Style is about lifelong buddies Willie, played by Morgan Freeman, Joe, played by Michael Caine, and Albert, played by Alan Arkin, decided to buck retirement, step off the straight and narrow when they lose their pension funds. The 3 men risk it all by embarking on an adventure to knock off the very bank that took their money. It is a heist movie with old people.
No, I did not see this movie. You went and saw it. Aaron, how did you feel about it? General thoughts?
I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time on this. It was the movie, when I put out a poll, that more people voted for, that they wanted to hear talk about rather than Smurfs.
There's only 2 movies out this week.
If you wanted to hear talk on Smurfs, we did do some in the pre-show, so if you're a Patreon supporter, you can check that out. We also talked about best movies starring blue people, so that was fun.
Dabba-dee-dabba-die.
This is a movie that I was just meh. Didn't really care.
It's the definition of meh.
Yeah,
it looked like a meh movie.
Here's the thing, though. There are some things I liked about it. Number one, these 3 guys are really endearing together. I love Alan Arkin, Morgan Freeman, and Michael Caine together. And there is a scene where they're watching The Bachelorette, and it's gold. Like, it's just like, I wish that had been the whole movie, was them just like being old buddies and hanging out together and that kind of thing. Because the moment this movie tries to do the bank heist thing, to do, all the things it's trying to do, it just is so ridiculous and so unbelievable. And
you just need a 2-hour or an hour and a half My Dinner with Andre with these guys. You don't need a bank heist movie. You just need them talking to each other.
Or how about this? Or how about this bank heist movie, but make it more realistic? Like, give it some real solid consequence. Give it some risk. Give it some, they wanted so bad to be a comedy that I think they forgot that, the entire concept of robbing a bank is dangerous. Yeah. Like, they are putting people's lives in danger. And the movie kind of glosses over that a little bit for the sake of comedy and also for the sake of us liking these guys.
Yeah.
But what if the movie had decided to really understand that, to understand the real consequences of making this choice? Just because you got, bilked out of your pension fund. That's a real crazy, hard, and I would say unethical decision to rob a bank to make your point and to get your money back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So deal with that instead of just making it this farce.
Yeah.
I think that could have been a better movie, but as it is, it's just, ridiculous and not grounded. And there are some funny moments, but again, most of it comes from their chemistry and then hanging out. Christopher Lloyd is in this as well.
Really?
Yeah. And,
man, Doc Brown?
Yeah. It was playing a senile old man. Imagine that.
Yeah. So, can't recommend it?
No, I don't think so.
Plenty of other good things to go see.
I mean, if you want to rent it at some point, maybe, but I wouldn't spend more than a couple bucks on it.
If you see it on Netflix, is it going to be a movie that ends up on the Netflix title panel, you think?
It could be, possibly.
In your meh category on Netflix, the good old meh category.
Did you have any questions about it or anything like that?
It looked like a skippable movie, so I didn't really bother thinking of anything.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I wanted to know if, the chemistry between these guys was going to work, and you answered that one. So.
It does. I really think it does. I just wish they had a better movie to, work it in.
Yeah.
It seems like Morgan Freeman these days, his career is either playing God or somebody who's about to meet God. Before we get on to the rest of the show, though, I do want to let people know about Patreon. We have another supporter, Lara, pledged. So thank you, Lara, supporting every month to keep the Studio DNA podcast network on the air. Siftpop is part of that network, and the Patreon is for all the podcasts on that network. So when you get your dedicated podcast feed as a supporter, not only do you get this podcast, but any other podcast on the network, all the bonus episodes, all the exclusive pre-shows, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's a great thing. Thank you so much for making it happen. We really could not do this. The entire podcast network comes right out of this studio. So thanks for making it possible. Thanks for making it possible.
I'm surprised you haven't made that pun sooner.
You can go to patreon.com/studiodna. We have a new segment we started last week with feedback, questions that you might have. And we called it Siftback last week, which admittedly was a pretty poor name. So I kind of mentioned, hey, is there a better name that anybody can think of? And Blake came through on Twitter at Midnight Jog, says maybe call it the Sift Quest, because people are searching for info like a quest, and quest also sounds like question. I love that.
That's really good, Blake.
I really love that. So we're going to adopt that, and each week we will venture forth together on a quest for answers. If you have burning pop culture questions, need an argument settled, or have a culture conundrum, simply tweet me at Aaron Dicer or email feedback@siftpop.com. Today's Sift Quest was launched by Drew via email. Here's what Drew says, and this is a little bit of a deeper one. I'm excited to talk about this one.
Okay.
Drew says, I'm a relatively new fan to your podcast and YouTube channel, maybe October, and have grown to really love your videos and weekly podcasts. One thing that stands out to me about your show is your desire to have an actual conversation about anything, even if it's something you may disagree about. You're very open about being a Christian, but you don't ever force your views onto someone else's thoughts or opinions about the topic, and I definitely admire that about you. With that in mind, I wanted to ask you something that I've been going back and forth about in my own life. I'm 26, currently finishing up my third year of pharmacy school in Texas, married, and like you, a huge fan of movies. But as a Christian, I often feel like I have to justify which movies I see. For instance, I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones. But sometimes I feel like people think less of me as a Christian knowing the content of that show. With movies and shows pushing the boundaries of R ratings, I just don't know how to feel about them. I don't ever feel bad for watching them, but some of my friends and family make me feel like I should. I just wanted to get your opinion on it since you seem to have a good handle on it, Drew.
Wow, he's just going for the deep end there. Wow, you want to take this one? Because
sure.
It's more aimed at you, really.
Absolutely. But here's what's interesting. I would love to get some opinion from you, too, as somebody. What would you self-identify with faith-wise? Like agnostic?
Probably agnostic.
Okay.
Open to the concepts of religion, not convinced by any.
That's a great way to say it. But I like the idea of kind of getting your opinion, too, as, somebody who doesn't have the same faith necessarily that I do, because he's absolutely right. my Christianity is something that comes up every once in a while, but it's not the point of what we do here. We're talking about movies, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So I'd love to get your opinion as well.
Okay.
For me, I come from that culture. When there was sex or violence or, bad language or those kind of things, that automatically made something bad. And I think it has to do with the idea of garbage in, garbage out, which is a phrase, you'll hear a lot, which basically just means if you hear enough of it, it's going to become part of you. If you see enough of it, it's going to become part of you, that kind of thing. What I've come to believe as an adult is that is not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Because we have our own decisions that we can make, it's not like hearing something or seeing something or anything like that automatically means I'm going to start being that kind of person.
Yeah.
If that were the case, I couldn't watch, anything about anybody that did anything wrong because maybe then I would start doing stuff wrong. The other part I often talk about is the fact that if you go back to the Bible, the Bible is full of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Old Testament of the Bible is brutal.
Yeah, brutal and very sexual as well. And so, it's really interesting how Christians can separate those two things, and the stories that are told in the Old Testament and even some of the New Testament as well. Yeah. It's not as if they leave a lot to the imagination. So is it just because it's printed word versus, something on the screen? The only thing I would say is I think it's different with kids. Children's brains actually are designed to learn how to become what they see. That's how we learn to talk. That's how we learn to walk, all this kind of stuff. But there comes a point during adolescence where you transition from just, soaking in the world around you and making it part of yourself to discerning and, taking what you see around you and actually deciding what you want to be and how you want to do those kind of things. So I just don't know that content is as much of an issue for me as it used to be as a Christian. Like I haven't seen the impact that I was always told would be there. I don't curse like a sailor as many F-bombs as I hear every week in the movie theater.
I don't like the argument that I hear kids shouldn't play video games or watch bad movies because then they'll try and emulate, what they're seeing. But what video games or bad movies was Stalin or Hitler watching that turned them into the people they were,
Oh, I'm sure they had messed up stuff in their childhoods.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that you can't automatically assume just because somebody is watching a specific type of content that means that's the type of person they are. I think there is a thick line, not a thin line, there is a thick line between watching something like art. That's what movies and video games, it's art. It's not propaganda. So I think that there are people out there who believe that's what movies and video games are. They look at them as propaganda, as a way of praising or evoke a certain message and sometimes movies do have a message, but most of the time, I think 99% of the time, the message it's trying to get across is a positive one. Don't do this, or So I think that people, like, if a movie has something in it, that it's championing something.
I look at movies like I'm thinking of Goodfellas or something like that, where it almost does feel like a glorification of violence or criminal activity, those kind of things.
Yeah,
and that's a different thing to me. That's different than just watching violence. That's talking about what a movie is saying, and even that I don't think there's anything wrong with interacting with that. I think what I try to do is make sure my brain is turned on, and I think everybody does this, to the point where you know what you agree with and what you disagree with in what you're watching, and that you're alert to that. I would disagree with you a little bit, Andrew. I do think for kids it is important. I really do. And maybe it's just seeing my own kids and how when they watch something, they immediately do it. Like, it's immediately, if they watch Star Wars, it's immediately everything's a lightsaber,
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So I do feel like with kids, there is a different level of brain activity that's happening. Once you go through adolescence and you're an adult, you figured out how to take, or you should have figured out how to take the world around you and decide the kind of person you want to be, so not necessarily become what you see.
So do you think that whenever your kids are playing with lights or pretending that there's with lightsabers, just hypothetically, do you think that they are having difficulties differentiating between their own imagination and the real world at that point?
No,
Okay.
I don't think it's an imagination versus real world thing. I think it is an automatic human behavior as a child to become what your environment is.
Okay.
The brain, in fact, there have been brain studies on this. The child's brain is different chemically than an adult's brain. It's made up differently because it's made to learn so much so quickly.
That's why you're really encouraged whenever you're younger to learn a second language when you're younger, because it's easier for you.
Yes, exactly. You can, and again, that's how we learn to talk. We just make it a part of ourselves because it's around us. For me, I've had this conversation with relatives, with friends, especially as I become a movie critic and I'm seeing everything, whether it be, 50 Shades of Grey or, whatever it might be, where, people who are Christians go, how do you do that? How is that even, how do you not feel like you're quote unquote sinning by watching something like that? And I don't think viewing something can ever be sin.
So I know you're Christian. Do you attend church like weekly or something?
Yeah.
Are there people, I don't want to get too personal. You don't have to.
No,
get
it's fine. I don't mind being
to.
personal. Yeah.
Are there people in your congregation who the
judgmentalism?
The judgmentalism is there in that, like, is that part of your life in that specific sector of the church specifically?
I think those people keep it to themselves.
Okay.
I think it's probably there under the surface. I do not experience it directly.
That's good.
Well, to be honest, I'd rather experience it directly. Like, I don't know. There's something about being honest about it that would be nice if people do have those feelings, which is
then
why...
you could have a conversation about it.
Exactly, which is why I love when a family member or a friend will come to me and say, how is this possible for you to do this as a Christian? And then I can have that conversation.
Yeah.
For you, Drew, I think you just have to figure out where those lines are for you. Now, I'm also not saying there aren't things in our own individual lives, we would call these convictions in Christianity, that, can impact you in the same way if you have an alcohol problem, don't go to the bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that whole thing. If you have been trying to clean up your language, so to speak, let's say you want to not use certain words in your vocabulary, there may be something really smart about not putting yourself in a position where those words are pounded into your head. The same with, a struggle with lust or something like that. To not, watch a very sexual movie is probably a good idea. But I think a lot of that depends on who you are, your personality, and, kind of your maturity and your strength.
Yeah, because this show and all the shows under the Studio DNA and umbrella are all family friendly.
Yes.
And you have me on as a co-host for this one. My content on Flick Freaks is definitely not family friendly.
Correct.
Because we don't have any filters whenever it comes to language.
Right.
But we're still able to have these conversations and we're still able to communicate with each other very respectfully.
Right.
I know for a fact you don't look down on me just because I use swear words because it gives me time to think of other words to say. But
is that why you use?
That's pretty much why I swear. Like, oh, what can I
give me a little space?
It gives me time, but there's no dead air, so I just throw swear words out. And I've heard you say, if you were to ever swear, you would just come across as Mel Gibson's character in Signs, because it's not naturally for you, but for me it is. So just because somebody in your life, Drew, may not swear or they may not appreciate the content that you view, like Game of Thrones, it doesn't mean specifically they think you're a bad person. They're disapproving of the content, not you.
Right. And I think that is the key thing to remember, right? Is we're each living our own life.
Exactly.
We're trying to figure out, what's appropriate for our life, those moral, those ethical decisions. And a lot of us base them on different things. Drew and I base them on the idea of Christianity, a creator God who loves us and the relationship that we have with him. Other people base those on, community or culture or whatever the case may be. No. But just remember, everybody's on their own journey, and judgmentalism in all of its forms can be a very dangerous thing. But having great conversations, I love that, I'll have those. This is why I love having these conversations, Before we finish this topic, though, I did want to ask you personally, if you don't mind sharing.
Go for it.
Is there any kind of content that you don't watch because you feel like it affects you? So not necessarily because it's wrong to watch, but you just avoid it because of the way it changes you or affects you.
There have only been 2 films I watched that made me feel like physically ill after watching it, and that was Clockwork Orange and Requiem for a Dream. Now, both of those are masterpieces in their own right, but at the same time, I don't think there's no content I can think of that would make me a different person than who I am.
Okay.
Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, I was
there?
asking if there's anything you avoid, like anything you choose to avoid.
I don't really think so, because at the same time, I feel like I would be depriving myself of experiencing something. I don't have to necessarily think it's good, but I don't think that I can just say, oh, it's this specific type of content, therefore I must shun away from it.
But there are things in our lives outside of art that we make those choices. Like food is one of those. We don't eat everything just so we can experience it. If we know it's going to have a bad effect on us, we'll avoid it. Or
I can't drink alcohol. So.
Right, yeah. Like something like that. But with media, you can't think of anything like that.
Not real. I'm sure there is, but off the top of my head, I'll throw this out there, for example. I don't watch specific news outlets because I don't, particularly agree with the viewpoints of what their quote-unquote facts are or something like that.
So you just find yourself getting angry, so it's not worth it.
Exactly, yeah. I think that's as close as I can possibly come to answering that question for you.
The only line I draw, and it's not really a line as much as it is a preference, is with like torture movies, like Saw, those kind of movies.
Yeah, I don't like them.
Yeah.
So I don't like
how it makes me feel. I don't
watch. There was a movie back in 2008 or 9 called Hostel.
Yeah, that kind of movie.
It was torture porn. Yeah, I don't watch those because that's a perfect example. I don't watch torture porn. There we go.
And I think porn's the right word there, and I think the same goes for sexuality too with pornography it's something that exists just to make that feeling in you. So like the torture porn is that it just exists to how much can it gross you out with how violent it can get? And the same with pornography, how sexual can it get to, turn you on or those kind of things. Yeah. So I think when it comes to media that is meant to engage the parts of myself that I don't like what it does to me, that's the stuff I avoid. Does that make sense?
That's a perfect example, and I would totally agree. I can't watch movies like Saw or Hostel. I don't see the appeal to them.
Yeah.
So we really got thrown into the deep end there with that Sift quest. I thought we were going to start off with questions like, what's your favorite comedy from the 70s?
Well, we kind of did. We did a little bit of that last week.
Yeah, but... I don't unapprove of the question. We had a great conversation right there.
And that's we really do want this feedback section to be about whatever you want it to be about. We are looking forward to talking about what's your favorite comedy. We're looking forward to those questions. And there's already some in the bank that are really good, and we look forward to doing so.
And thank you to Blake for coming up with that name, Sift Quest. That's really good.
So bravo, Drew.
Yeah.
Thank you, Drew, for taking us on that awesome Sift quest.
Yeah.
If you want to launch a Sift quest of your own, just hit us up on Twitter or, again, email us at feedback@siftpop.com. All right, before we finish up, let's do some buried treasure, Andrew.
Yeah, let's do it. You want to go first?
One thing in the area of pop culture that you want to let people know about? Yeah, I can go first. I finished the podcast S-Town. Did you listen to S-Town?
I have not heard of it.
You haven't heard of it?
No.
Okay, so
I have so many podcasts in my feed right now.
No, it's great. I'm glad. It just broke the record for the most downloaded podcast ever in its first week.
Whoa.
So it is 6 or 7 episodes, I can't remember, and it's all available immediately. And it's just this story from This American Life and Serial and the people that did those.
Okay.
About this guy in a town in Alabama and kind of what he went through. And I don't want to give anything away. It is compelling. It is interesting, kind of mind-blowing. I had a singular experience with this podcast.
Whoa.
Because when I was listening to it, I thought it was fiction. I thought that they were doing like a radio play.
So it's a story cast, it's not a Talking Heads.
Yeah, but it is a Talking Heads.
Oh.
But I thought it's kind of like, have you listened to This American Life?
I don't think so.
Okay. Radio Lab.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's that kind of thing where there's a narrator, but they're telling you a story kind of thing. So I thought they were playing off of that and creating this story. And so the whole time I was thinking it was fiction. And then at the end, they said something about research on this and that. I was like, wait a second. And I looked it up and I was like, that was a true story?
Whoa.
And it totally changed my perspective. I don't know what it would be like to listen to this knowing that it's a true story. And I wonder if it's an even better experience doing that, because I had some issues with it. Issues like, well, that actor wasn't believable. Well, guess what? That wasn't an actor.
Yeah.
That was a real person.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
it was
S-Town.
it was a weird experience for me, but I think you'll like it. It's
How
it's
many
really interesting.
episodes are there? Do you know?
I think like 6 or 7.
Are they hour-long episodes, something like that?
Yeah, they're about an hour each, and they just dropped them all at once so you can binge them.
All right. Wow.
So it shouldn't take too long, but it was an interesting experience for me to experience it in that way.
You've piqued my interest.
Yeah.
Speaking of buried treasures, we had I can't remember who it was. Maybe you can help me. They recommended Ready Player One, the book.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember who that was?
I don't remember who did that, no.
I think it was a horrible movie whenever they were on last. So,
was it Jack or was it Phil?
No, it was Phil. Yeah.
Okay.
He recommended, that's who it was, yeah. I read it. It was great.
Oh, good.
I just wanted to get that out there. But my
Good.
buried treasure for this week is a movie. I haven't really recommended a movie on buried treasure in a while, but I'm going to recommend one of the last movies I gave a 10 out of 10 to.
Ooh.
And it's a movie not a lot of people have seen. It's called Disconnect. Have you ever seen it before?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about.
So it's a movie. It has great cast. You have Jason Bateman, Hope Davis, Frank Grillo, Alexander Skarsgård, Michael Nyqvist. Huge cast. And the movie is all about how the modern era is affected by the internet. It's kind of like a Crash or any of those movies where it's a whole bunch of spiderweb stories that come together in one, that are brought together by one thing. Huge cast, and me and my friend Zach, we were on the edge of our seat watching this.
Wow. What's it called again?
Disconnect.
Disconnect.
Yes.
We did it!
Huzzah!
Andrew, we did it! And you don't even know how hard it was.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Hopefully it sounds seamless.
Yeah.
This is like the 4th time we've had to start this recording.
Yes, we did. Yeah, it's in quarters, but we did it all in one day.
That's right. Yes, over the course of a day, it all happened.
I just sat here and talked. It's all on your shoulders to make this sound good. So, good luck to you, sir.
I will do my best. Thanks so much for joining us today for Siftpop. It is part of the Studio DNA podcast network. You can find out more about other live and later shows on the network by following the feed at mixlr.com/studiodna. Mixlr is spelled mixlr.com/studiodna. We don't have a guru to thank today, but huge thanks to Andrew Ormsby.
Hi! Yay! Me!
It's you. Seriously, though, do you have anything you want to plug?
We're about to hit 40,000 subscribers on YouTube. We have a Let's Play series coming out really soon for 7 Days to Die. That's a lot of fun. Just keep checking out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/flickfreaks. You can find us on pretty much every single form of social media at /flickfreaks. And if you like our content, we would love the subscription, and hopefully we continue to entertain.
Also, much love and gratitude to our Patreon supporters for giving monthly to make this show and others on the network possible. Support starts at $3 a month and comes with some pretty fun perks. Find out more info at patreon.com/studiodna. There's lots of ways to connect with the podcast. You can do it at SoundCloud, you can tweet at us, iTunes comments, or email us at feedback@siftpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the podcast too. Let them know about it and that listening is much easier than evicting an evil, jaundiced blob man from your psyche. Spoiler chat from this week's movie should be next up in your podcast feed soon, and we'll see you back next week for some talk on the fate of the Furious and more.